Thank you, Simon. Taro whalawa, ni sambulumanaka, kia orana, whakalofalahi atu ki matolu osi, ma loelelei, taloha ni, he mihi nui kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you, and I must apologise, I'm on Pacific time, so I've kind of cruised through the day and I've missed everything, so hopefully what I'm going to share with you is, I guess it's experience from us as general practitioners in South Auckland, and thank you, Maryann, because you pretty much talked about everything that I was going to mention, so I can skip through some of my presentation. Okay. And I'm really good with technology, so bear with me. Simon. Okay, just go. I'll just use this.
Yeah.
That's okay, I always break everything when I'm teaching stuff. So. But anyway, I'll just make a start. So, just thought I'd talk about the clinic where I'm working in South Auckland. I'm a neighbour with Maryann and Marty. I thought I'd present some data on a little mini audit I did on scabies in our Pacific population. And the other side of our organisation, we have a community side, so we have a Manakas program which operates in 6 schools, hopefully 7 soon, that looks at rheumatic fever prevention in local schools. And then I just thought I'd mention some of the other issues that we deal with. Okay. So I always like to put this up here because, we're talking about equity, and I think our reality is very different. I mean, we'd love to be equitable with everything that we do, especially with our Pacific patients, but in reality it's very different. So I always like this as a reminder of what we're dealing with and I guess why we work where we work. When we talk about the Pacific region, we, I guess, get lumped together as Pacific Islanders, but no, there's probably over 22 different ethnicities in the Pacific. And I think one of the main things to remember is our Pacific population are very mobile. They travel a lot back and forth. They go home, people come over to visit. So, imagine that there's a huge population that do a lot of travelling, especially to South Auckland. So, you probably mentioned this earlier on, but I was just trying to find some data around sort of Pacific. So, this was probably from the paper that we wrote with Simon. So, I think the main thing is the population is estimated to grow to probably just under 500,000 Pacific people in another few years' time. We're dealing with a major problem at the moment, so I guess if we don't get things right, our population is going to grow a lot faster. So South Seas Healthcare, it's a low-cost access clinic. It's been in existence for the last 20 years. We have approximately 5,300 patients. 94% are Pacific, mostly Samoan and Tongan. We have 3% Māori and 3% everyone else. We have a lot of local schools, we deal with a lot of the local churches. Again, as Maryann's mentioned, most of them are quite deprived, quintile 5. Our families are very large. It's not unusual to have between 10 to 20 family members living in one place. And as I mentioned before, they're quite mobile in terms of travelling back and forth to the islands. I wanted to set the scene because a lot of what we see is everything else. So these are some figures from Counties Manukau in terms of some of the avoidable admissions, and this is for 0 to 4 years old. And pretty much what's reflected here is what we see every day in clinic, likewise with what Maryann would see as well. And as you can see, the Pacific numbers are very high in all those things: respiratory infections, pneumonia, skin infections, dental. All of those things are very high, and I guess that's why we work really hard to try and improve the numbers and improve the health status of our population. Again, this just shows in terms of skin infections, this is something that we see every single day. Very challenging to deal with and affects most of the families. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of a audit the last 3 years, and so we found we put in sort of 0 to 85 years old for Pacific patients, and what I found there was 454 cases of diagnosed and treated scabies. Roughly the same in terms of gender, male and female, and the breakdown is, as you can see, mostly Samoan and some of the other smaller ethnic groups. To date, we've got about 62 cases of scabies that we've diagnosed this year alone. So this again is just the data, and it was a breakdown in terms of the ages. As you can see, it's probably about 200 are below the age of 10, but then also 2 in the other age groups. I thought the other thing that might be interesting was in terms I looked at recurrence of scabies, and 26, the second one. We had 5 that had the 3rd episode of scabies, and we had 1 that had 4 scabies reinfections. So, and that person was 85 years old. And then again, it's just showing the data in terms of how prevalent it is in our patients. As Maryann has said before, I mean, it's difficult, it really is difficult. You know, sometimes people come in with 3 or 4 different problems, but then at the end they say, oh no, actually we just came to check a rash. And you know, you're looking like, you know, is it impetigo, is it scabies, is it dermatitis? And so what a lot of our colleagues do, we probably end up treating for everything, which probably doesn't sound great, but that's what you end up doing because you're not always sure. You know, you have your history, you're looking for burrows, which you probably won't always find. And it's just families coming in quite frustrated because they're coming with the same problem, intense itch and, you know, skin infections not getting better, and they keep coming back. It is a challenge because our families are so big and a lot of them go between houses. The other challenge too is actually to translate. You know, how do you translate scabies treatment to in Samoan or Tongan? It's really difficult because it's not just one word, it's concepts. So you've got to try and find ways to actually translate, you know, treatments and things, and why it's so important to get scabies treated. It's hard. We don't have anything like a dermatoscope in clinic. That's probably something that we probably should invest in. But you know, with some newer investigations that are coming, I think it would help us a lot. Again, just to show that it's not so simple sometimes. I guess the main thing is just large families, low socioeconomic status. I was doing a bit of a search online to see if I could find some visual aids or anything that was translated, or some DVDs and stuff into the different languages like Samoan and Tongan. Couldn't really find anything, which was hard as well. So you know, maybe something needs to be developed that we can use, because I think a lot of our population are more visual people, rather than a lot of writing things. They need to look at stuff that's more visual, that they can, and then, you know, we can use in clinic. I think the other thing too is a lot of the times to get people to have treatment as a household, it's really difficult, because if you don't have symptoms, they're like, you know, why should I take it? Why should I use the cream? So that's the other message that's really hard to get across, is trying to treat everybody in the family. Always really difficult. And as mentioned before, the stigma around it, the ma, you know, that's something that they don't want to mention. If you have scabies, it's a bad thing. So, you know, often after you've done your 15-minute consult, you've done your 3 or 4 problems, and they may just mention it towards the end. So again, very difficult. And I think that's why we need to have, you know, not only us as GPs, but our health teams involved in education, like, you know, the messages get out there. I thought I'd put this up here too. It's our Mana Kids data for the last 2 years. I've got from term 1 to 3 from last year, and just the first 2 terms this year. I was just looking at skin conditions associated, and these are the 6 schools that we work with. And so it came back like most of them had scabies, they had eczema, they had impetigo. And you know, I mean, it's quite alarming to see that, and it's something that we see every day. Again, you know, problems with treatment and challenge with treatment, reinfection. And I thought I just put this up because we were kind of talking about, you know, strep throat. So I did a breakdown of positive throat swabs, the group A strep, and how many total throat swabs that we had done during the year. And basically those are the numbers that came back, the top number as opposed to the bottom. So the rates are probably between 9% to 22% prevalence, but you know, I thought it was quite interesting. But you know, I think it's along the lines of what we've been discussing in terms of, you know, impetigo, scabies, and acute rheumatic fever, or prevention of. Again, you've probably mentioned this before, but this was just a reminder to mention alternative therapy and treatment. You know, often, you know, as Pacific, we might do other things like, you know, herbal treatment, we might do massage, we might do different things. So a lot of things will be tried before they come in to get the actual treatment from us. So just something to keep in mind. And there's so many things out there in terms of, you know, sort of herbal stuff, alternative stuff, natural treatment. So I think just to be mindful that it does exist or it's out there. I haven't prescribed ivermectin. I think most of it has come through from hospital, from a dermatologist or paediatrician, so probably we should use it more, but I don't use it much in clinic at all. Okay, so I was speaking to one of my colleagues who's a paediatrician at Kids First, and basically she said that there's been no sort of improvement in treatment and management of scabies over the years that she's been in hospital. It's usually an incidental finding when they are admitted with other things, but they end up sort of treating it anyway. But you know, again, it's the frustrating thing is the reinfection and I guess the consequences. So, just in summary, presentations are variable and diagnosis is difficult. It's high prevalence in this population, but just how prevalent, I don't know, maybe we're underestimating it. In our communities, we deal with sort of overcrowding, poverty, sometimes it's a lack of awareness or a stigma around embarrassment. The other barrier is languages and using other alternative therapies before they come in for the actual treatment. I think we should just have a higher index of suspicion. You know, often when they come in with skin infections, we have to think about that and probably just treat. As I said before, we often do mixed treatments and just education, promotion, language specific, I think is really important. And I just wanted to leave this with you today. Shrink in all endeavours and the community will benefit. Thank you.
Maryann, don't go away.
I just want to offer to help actually. I'd love to send you some stuff. So I'm from DHK, I'm a nurse practitioner there, and we've developed a skin resource to put out into the community, and at the moment we're trying to saturate the Hawke's Bay market with it. It's come from the public, it's come from the people who want this resource, from early childhood through to high schools. It's a skin flip chart, it's incredibly visual, it's got natural medicines, it's got pictures, it's very, very visual, which is what we've been asked to develop. At the moment we give it in English, Te Reo Māori and some other three main languages we put it in. We are saturating our Pasifika community with it, with huge positive feedback from Pacific language nurses and things like that. There's a bit hui down there this weekend, so we're very much trying to get this out there. Love to share it with you if you're interested.
Fantastic connections. John?
I found your data interesting in many aspects. One particularly that really shows how skewed hospital data is. You had it by age, the age of diagnosis and the numbers of people you were diagnosing scabies with. And so, with the best of intentions, I presented the admitted scabies figures, which showed a much younger age group, 1 to 40. But they might get admitted purely because they're little and more trouble, because you're clearly, the difference in those numbers between 1 and 5 and 10 was real, but it was far less marked, suggesting that family practice is seeing, if I'm interpreting your data, am I right in interpreting it as you're seeing it all school ages, slightly more in the preschool?
Yeah, I think so. But I think also too, I mean, again, I'm guilty of not doing classifications properly. Like, I mean, often we're probably doing a few other things and then maybe scabies will be at the end and we haven't classified it enough, so maybe it's even we're underestimating. I guess that's my feeling. You know, for us to do a proper check on that. And I guess that was just Pacific, it wasn't, I guess, our whole population that we had as well. It wouldn't make a difference, but I think, you know, the numbers that we see, we're probably underestimating.
online. You mentioned the alternative medicine. Can you just elaborate on that? Has traditional medicine been used?
Yeah, I mean, often we come in, I mean, a lot of the patients that come in from the islands, like, so you'll find during the vacation time, a lot of our families will be travelling back and forth, and so often they'll be coming back with skin infections or coming with old injuries. They've gone over to do other things and they'll come, you know, bearing herbal medicine, you know, leaves and all sorts of different things. And so often they'll try other things and then they might come in and see us because it hasn't worked, you know, it's been going on for, you know, months and months, and then they'll actually come in to see if they can see what it is and get some treatment. But often a lot of them will try alternate stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we still see a lot of that. Sometimes I always think we're probably the last option for treatment. They'll try everything else from there. If it's not working, we'll just go on and see the doctor and see if we can get some treatment. So sometimes I find that we're last resort.
Fascinating stuff. Thanks very much, Maryann.